Hey everyone, you're watching the Centre Bounce. We're here to discuss the 2022 season for the Collingwood Magpies. In this series, stay tuned. Big J, we've got a guest on here. We've got massive Collingwood fan Luke on board to discuss his Magpies. How are we doing today?
Very well, very well. Um, very can't contain my excitement for next season at the moment. So even though it's ages away, so um, oh yeah, I can't contain my excitement. Last season, a lot of Collingwood fans and people in general were very negative about how we'd go, and I remember trying to be. I was that deluded person who was going like, you know, new coach, new season, who knows? And people are like, Collingwood are bottom four. So yeah, here we are. Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely not bottom four. Tell you what.
Craig McRae he's the GOAT. That's it.
Yeah. I feel a little bit like it was obviously Buckley's team still, but I feel it was a bit like sometimes when you've been coaching for as long as what he has, like 8, 9, 10 years, right? That it can get a little bit stale with the players and stuff. And if you bring in someone new, like the Pies obviously have, even with similar players, they can do a lot better. Is that something that you kind of feel was the case, or did McRae come in and like completely change everything?
Nah, definitely. It was definitely feeling quite stale, and things needed freshening up. And it was also all this kind of off-field stuff that was affecting the overall outlook of the club, just the vibe about the club, like all the Do Better report and the there's a few, Eddie Maguire, things think will he stay, will he go, kind of a few people left. And I just thought it'd be important to mention it's not just Craig McRae, but it's also the whole coaching staff changed as well. And he brought in some coaches with really good credentials, like assistant coaches like Brendan Bolton, Justin Lipich. I don't think he has much credentials, but we got Josh Fraser as well as another one of the coaches we brought in, who's a former player. And I think, so it's I think the players would have definitely felt the change from all that.
That's good.
Yeah, a lot of change off the field, because not so much on the field. I guess the biggest change on field would have come from one Nick Dacos, who absolutely came in and played an absolute superstar role, and he was a great super coach pick for all of us. And it turns out we should have kept him for the whole year. Basically, trading him out was the wrong move. The guy was that good. So when you've got all that change off the field with the coaches, and then you had this addition of this sensational young talent that's now playing with a lot of dare, a lot of quick ball movement, you see the sort of result that we saw last year from you guys last season. You finished fourth. You had 16 wins. You tipped to be bottom four. No. You guys flipped the script and you finished top four. And you had, the percentage shows there were quite a few close victories there, but you got to find a way to win. What an insane year it was for your boys.
I think 11 of our 16 wins were by under 2 goals or something like that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It felt like some kind of it just didn't feel real sometimes. Like, what is this? Every week it's every game. It was good value for money as a Collingwood member, because every week we were getting games that went down to under a goal at one point. So it was really good value for money. I got there was some good moments, some really good moments. And just on Nick Dacos, I just thought it'd be funny to mention. But I remember last season around the same time, effectively upgrading Nick Dacos to Jack Crisp. And then I think after I did that, for the rest of the season, Nick Dacos outscored him for like 200K. It cost me 200K to upgrade him as well. So, that's something that, you just think, oh geez, what could have been?
I had a similar pain as well. I think Dacos gave me like 2 scores in the 40s or something, around 400k, and I got rid of him. And then he went like 100, 140. I think there might have been a 170, and then just like coaxed for the rest of the year. I was so annoyed.
I think there were 2 scores. There was at least 2 over 140. There might have been another one in that of the really high ones. But the 170, he 40 disposals, 3 goals. So, I mean, that sounds off like halfback as well. That's so weird.
For a first year player,
yeah, that's
like you just don't have debut seasons like that. That is insane, and that's not even his natural position. He's meant to play as like a forward mid. You know, he's meant to as a mid forward. He's meant to have a lot of scoreboard presence. He's not supposed to be running off half back. Like, what is going on? This guy can do everything.
Well, yeah, he's like meant to be like a goal scoring midfielder kind of. Although I do think because he's a bit because he's still young and stuff, halfback was a good area for him to develop. What was I going to say? Just struggling to recall what I was going to say. Never mind. Yeah, I do think. Geez, I couldn't have asked for much more from him this season. Definitely not.
I think even if kids are really good at junior level, you'll find that a lot of teams will actually start them, I think, off that halfback with some midfield time instead of just chucking them straight in the guts, maybe like a Gold Coast did with Rao. But I know that North, for example, is talking about maybe doing that with Woodlaw as well. Is just like starting them off there, building their tank and endurance, and then giving them as much mid-time as they want, just because there's such a huge gap between, junior level and seniors, right? Especially in a competing team.
I think the biggest gap is the physicality. So that's why they play them at halfback. I think. That's a bad example. There's Goda for North Melbourne, who was they were playing him in the back line or something like that. Anyway, yeah. I'm just trying to.
We've got this is an interesting one for us because so far, when we rate a team's best performance for the year, it tends to be leading to a victory. But in this case here, we've got your best performance in that first final when you just fell short against Geelong in that epic performance where you had the Jeremy Cameron and you had the Jeremy Cameron show. He put on an absolute clinic, and it was a missed opportunity after all your misses in the first quarter. Would you agree, though, that was this your best performance for the year, do you reckon? Or was there something even better? I know you might say Jamie Elliott after the siren against Essendon. I don't want to hear it right now.
That's the best moment.
I've got PTSD from that.
That's the first time I've ever seen after siren win for Collingwood. So I'll treasure that. I'll always treasure that one. But yeah, definitely I do. When I really think about it, it probably was the best performance because it was probably the most 4-quarter performance it put in. It was. It was weird. We lost that game. I didn't really feel that bad about it. I was kind of like, we actually played pretty well for like pretty much every quarter. You could have won it. It was very winnable. If you speak to a lot of people after the game, there were plenty of people who thought like, based off the actual game, Collingwood probably played better, but it's just Geelong are a bit more clinical. So, I have to agree. That's best performance. I think Freo was good earlier in the season. And then Queen's birthday was another good one. Although Melbourne, maybe that's partly Melbourne. And then I think Carlton, when we beat Carlton earlier in the season, not later in the season, that one was that was a great match in general. The intensity of that game was something else. Yeah.
I always find the games where like your blood's pumping and you're screaming at the TV are the ones that kind of stick with you for a while, right? And this, I think it was the semi-final you've got up here is definitely that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just thought random thought that I definitely just going back to the crisp thing, I definitely think he must have been carrying something because he sort of dropped off after the bye. But then when it got to finals again, he actually played really well, like he was playing early in the season for our 3 finals. He got a lot of coaches' votes in those finals games. Him and De Goey, I think, nearly every game were one of our best. So that gives me excitement for this next season.
Yeah. But you're not going to pick him in Supercoach next year, right?
No, no way. No way. I can't. I want to support him. That's why I got rid of him after round 1, as you guys know, because I was like, this doesn't feel. It's. I'm trying to enjoy a Collingwood match and just getting angry about Jack Crisp not getting any of the winning possessions. So, yeah.
Yeah, that selection burnt to a crisp. That selection. You're going to have some other players to choose from next year. You've brought some people in, some high-profile people that we think genuinely feel needs that you guys have, and there are no bigger, I think, acquisitions for you guys than you managed to sneak in Tom Mitchell just at the end there to complement your midfield. You added Dan McStay. That was well reported that Dan McStay was going to be on the move. And from our discussions with DR, that was pretty much the case from like March or something. It was really, really early in the year. You picked up Bobby Hill out of the blue, another great, exciting small forward, and just to fill the whole ground. You've also recruited the key defender in Billy Frampton. So, I mean, you haven't left anywhere that you haven't bolstered on the ground through that trade period.
We've not bolstered the ruck.
That's
but
true.
yeah. But that's everything has a cost. Yeah, we've got four players and we've lost 2 really. We've lost 2 players really that I would say could be starting for us in Grundy and Henry. They're the main ones. Yeah, I'm so excited to see how Tom Mitchell comes and changes the midfield, because that was my biggest takeaway from the prelim against Sydney when we got knocked out, was just we need another midfielder. We'll just get killed by Callum Mills and Chad Warner and all those guys. And I was just thinking, we could do so badly with someone that's just a pure ball magnet to just get the ball a bit more. We lost Adams, I believe, and that really, with not with Tom Mitchell, not only would it be, if him and Adams are fit, we could potentially see something even more than we've seen previously, but it also is the depth as well. So Adams is not he's not been very dependable with injury for a couple of years now. He always seems to spend like a third of a season injured, or he has injuries all the time. So that depth even will just raise the floor a lot, I think, because the floor definitely affected the team. Having certain key midfielders in and out definitely seemed to affect the floor of how we performed. Yeah.
He's not known for playing 22 games the last couple of years, so having another person there in that midfield probably helps too. And you'd think maybe with Pendlebury playing a bit more back, or at least that half-back role, having another gun in the mids probably helps a bit too, right?
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, I'm just talking about Mitchell just from, like he's another body. That's before considering how he could be our best midfielder. I don't actually know. You'd have to ask Hawthorn fan how he's been going lately. My impression is that he's been okay. He's just been because Sam Mitchell wants to play. He wants to build the team for the next generation. He's been playing him up forward more and stuff like that. His mid-time's gone down. So, yeah, very exciting times. And Dan McStay is weird. It's like for those who follow soccer, in soccer there's something called like a loan, and basically a player can go to another club and is still owned this other club's player, but he'll go and play for another club and he'll come back. It was a bit like that. It was like we'd agreed to sign him. So far, it's like about 5 rounds of the season, I was like pretty confident he was coming next season already. It was weird. It's one of the earliest deals that happened all season, I think. In terms of it was just the agreement. It wasn't official, but it was basically done very, very early, that deal. So I was watching McStay just like, yes, that's our McStay. Watching Brisbane. Like mid-season, like, yes, come on, this is what I want to see next season. So I'm excited to see how he goes. He's I don't particularly rate him, but I can appreciate the functional things he adds to the team. That could be. I can see him doing a really good job functionally. If you speak to Brisbane fans, they seem to really appreciate all the things he does for the team that you don't necessarily notice that much when you're watching on TV.
Yeah.
I think Frampton is a bit of he's got upside, but I think Frampton's a bit of a punt that he could be a good key defender for us. He struggled to get into Adelaide's team last season, but maybe under working at Collingwood with different coaching staff, they can find, and maybe the way we defend could suit him better, like the style of how we defend as a team. That would be that would be amazing if Frampton just came in and just became like good. Just came good, sort of like when we got Jordan Roughhead. It was similar vibes to Frampton for me. It was just kind of I expected nothing. And because he's like a converted ruckman key defender, and he actually ended up being quite a solid player for us. So
I was going to ask, do you reckon he might just slot into where Roughhead has left in that kind of key tall in the backline position?
I really hope so. Because last season, it felt like we were short there all season a bit. Roughhead was the only key defender we had who really played as more of a like lockdown type, more of a intercepting kind of key defender. And Howe and Murphy are more like not really key defenders, they're more like third tall kind of intercepty types. Although Murphy, to his credit, improved a lot in his sort of 1v1 work. He seemed to get quite strong and actually really held his own quite well 1v1. So maybe Murphy could become a key defender, put on more size and become more of a key defender. But Frampton he has potential to be. What I'm saying is he has potential to be like a huge signing, like transformative to the whole backline, because we struggled to deal with teams that had a lot of height up forward. Especially when Darcy Moore was out that 1 week. I have to be honest though, the signing I'm most excited for is probably Bobby Hill, just because I don't know, I just love those excitement kind of small forward X Factor players. So he's young as well. He's got pretty good raps about him. Unfortunately he's been out for a whole year with testicular cancer. But he's only 21 or 22, I think, and he's just like, I think he's cousins with Leon Davis, and Leon Davis is one of my favorite ever players. So, if he's got even 10% of his X factor and speed and skill, then I'm very happy. we robbed GWS if he's got 10% of that.
And there's no pressure of him playing super early too with Jack Ginnivan and obviously Jamie Elliott there. So if he does have some form that he needs to get, he can just stick it out in the VFL team for a while and build that up and then push for a spot too. So,
well, I think the ones that would come in and probably come straight in is Tom Mitchell and Dan McStay. I think the other two, Hill and Frampton, are more. Well, Hill's more of he's young and long term, and Frampton's more of a, can he, with a whole preseason playing as a key defender. I don't think he's had that much preseasons as a key defender. I think he's been as a ruck and a forward. So maybe working a whole off season, focusing on defending, he's got the physical attributes. I've watched footage of him and I thought, wow, this guy is an athletic freak. So he's amazingly athletic for how big he is. So quick and so mobile and so. Oh, you just have to watch. It's hard to explain, but he's got sick athleticism. But it's can he actually defend Maybe can you coach that? Can you coach that into a player? I don't know. You tell me.
So. Yeah. Well, I mean, players
Yeah.
move from forward line to the back line, or there's been heaps of cases of that happening, and they have to learn how to defend from that. So, it must be a pretty teachable skill at some point.
Yeah.
And there are other players. And there are other players. Sorry, but there are other players who are young and can take time to develop. And given that your list is so strong already as it is, and now you're adding all of these extra key cogs, there's no rush at the end of the day. Even if they serve as depth, it still counts as development. And they'll be developing along the likes of other young players that you guys have picked up in the draft, who also have no pressure on them because you guys are competing and there's no real requirement for them to step up and play immediately. So you picked up the tall utility in Ed Allen with pick 19. You picked up Jacob Ryan, who's another one of those medium tall defenders that, you mentioned, Darcy Moore before when you lost him. Well, you've picked up another one that's in a similar vein to him with pick 28 in the draft. And then you also picked up a mature age, 22-year-old Joe Richards. It's unbelievable that we consider 22-year-old to be mature these days. It's making me feel a bit old now. But he's a mature age according to the definition in the football system with pick 48. So you've got some, these are players. They're all outside players. They're all players that have got good disposal, and they're all, play attacking style of football. And I think that complements your list in your game style. How do you think you guys went with the draft this year?
I was quite happy with the draft actually, because a lot of the phantom draft I was seeing had us getting Jacob Ryan at 19. So the fact that we got Ryan at 28 and we got someone else, Ed Allen, who not every sort of draft expert seemed to rate him, but I was seeing him at 12 or 13 and some. I think Carl Toomey had him at 13. Yeah. So there was a few that expected West Coast to go for him with 13, I think. So I am really excited about him. He sounds like an upside type draftee. He's the quickest 20-meter sprint in a draft, and he's 194 centimeters. So, and he's a midfield slash winger. I think he's more of a mid. That's my he said in an interview after we drafted him that he wants to play midfield long term. So I don't know if he means inside or on the wing, but he seems super athletic. So that's always, they love it. You got to love upside, Who knows? Paddy Cripps hype with pace, Paddy Cripps with pace.
Yeah, exactly. I actually heard that you guys were looking at Jacob Ryan with pick 19, but then Allen was still there. So you picked up Allen, and then you were really happy that Ryan was still there at 28. So you managed to grab both when you were only really after the one, and then got both anyway. So it worked out really well for you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we were thinking that Allen would be gone. Well, that's what Derek Hines said. He's thinking they thought for sure that Allen would be gone by then. So even though they wanted to get Ryan, the fact they had someone they had rated way higher, or they definitely rated higher in the draft board. The fact that he was still there, they went, oh well, screw that. Hopefully he's still there at 28. They have to get Ed Allen. So that's very exciting. That and Jacob Ryan, I listened to him say. I think the type of player he wants to be he's a Hawthorn. I know he's a Hawthorn fan, and I saw in a little interview he said he models he watches Sicily, so and he wants to be kind of like Sicily, the type of player he is. So I think that's what we might be looking at for what kind of player he ends up being or wants to be at least. And then Joe Richards. Joe Richards is actually coached by Ben Reid, former Collingwood player. And apparently, recommended.
Okay.
And yeah, he's the only sort of, what's the word? Playing at community level sort of player who made it to the combine and got drafted. I think he's the only one. He was absolutely killing it. He was absolutely killing regular blokes out there. He kicked 11. He kicked like 10 goals in one game or something like that.
Yeah,
So
11 goals in a game. He's kicked 29 goals in 11 games. So he's a very aggressive, very quick mid / forward. He's got a good bag of tricks, and he's actually won 3 best and fairest for his club. So absolutely, he's huge reps.
I watched highlights of him, and he looks electric. He looks quite fast, actually. I really, and maybe being a bit older too, he can impact a bit sooner, as sometimes you see with mature age players. Although they said, I'm pretty sure that Derek Hine, even the Collingwood sort of main recruiter, I'm pretty sure he said they'd be playing him at halfback. So that's something to look out for. Even though he's a forward mid, they might be trying him at halfback if he plays. So I'm quite happy with the draft. Just adding more people, and hopefully some of them end up being good pieces for the whole team.
For sure.
Yeah.
So with that sort of hope and prediction towards him playing a halfback, we'll talk about some predictions for the whole team going into next year. What do you reckon, Big J, about Collingwood's prospects next year?
So we had you guys at 16 wins, so similar to what you had this year. Top 4 ladder position. So as again, try and keep the same kind of position on field, top 4, top 5 around there. And we had a couple of questions. So just looking at how Tom Mitchell's come into the team, do you reckon it might help Collingwood's ability to win some more centre bounces straight off the ruckman, that kind of thing?
I definitely do. And when I found out we were losing Grundy, I was thinking, well, we have to get Tom Mitchell now, because that's and getting Tom Mitchell made me feel a lot more comfortable with that, because I felt like at least we're sort of replacing his centre bounce help, his clearances. We were a team that could win despite getting smashed in the middle somehow.
Mm-hmm.
We got absolutely annihilated by Carlton in the last round of the home and away season, and somehow we won the game. But in the midfield, we got absolutely smashed for the contested possessions. It was some kind of record they were talking about at the time. But definitely, we still, even though we could win with the midfield not doing well, we definitely, when the midfield did well too, was when we really looked like we were oozing sauce as a team. And Geelong was a game actually where we looked like that. We looked so good in the midfield that game. I think Taylor Adams got injured in the last quarter, and I don't remember. I think even it was late enough in the game we still looked all right. But Tom Mitchell is, I've never seen someone who's such a ball magnet almost. Barely anyone I've ever seen that can rack it up like that guy. So I think he should, if he stays fit and provided he's had a good off season and everything. I think hopefully this year and hopefully a few more to come, he can be a really important midfielder for us. Yeah, I do.
So obviously you guys had a few close games, like we highlighted the Collingwood Geelong game at the start. Do you feel like maybe Collingwood will be able to back that form up and win a few more of those close losses? Or do you feel like there might be some more blowout games either way next year? Or what's your feelings?
I think some of those close games shouldn't have even been close. Like some of them shouldn't have been close. We actually were really wasteful, and we could have been more further ahead. So I know there's a lot of people that think, next year they won't win those close ones and they'll drop a lot down the ladder. But I don't know. I think it goes back to point one, is some of these games are really close because we got smashed in the midfield.
Yeah.
But just the way the team plays, you manage to sort of keep ourselves in it and then snatch the win. But if we can, if number one does come true and we can improve midfield, then I do think we'll be able to back it up. And I hope that they remember the practice of all those close games in future, because that's definitely invaluable when you get into a habit of winning close games. And I hope, there's a few players I'm really hoping to see improvement from. Last season, we saw, I think I don't think anyone would really argue with me. I think the biggest improver was Ginnivan.
Yeah.
Although he he kind of got burnt out around the bye. I feel like he seemed to get burnt out around the bye. He had a pretty quiet season after the bye, barring 1 or 2 games where he had a good game. But before the bye, it felt like he was becoming talismanic in our forward line. Like if he got the ball, he'd just score at one point. So I'm hoping he can put together a whole season this year rather than just half a season. And other players as well. Hopefully, some of these Finlay McRae types that have been churning it out in the VFL all year can state their case to play in the midfield. So, yeah.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much for coming on board, Luke. It was a great discussion here, talking about your Magpies, talking about their 2022 season, and looking forward to next year. So, is it going to be Flagpies 2023?
I think so. And it was my always a pleasure, Joe. I could talk about Collingwood all day. Well, I'll do it for free. I'm doing it for free now, so yeah, Flagpies 2020. Come on.
We'll have to have you on again sometime soon then.
Oh, I'd love to be on. Yep,
definitely. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on, Luke. And guys, stay tuned for the next team talk when it comes out. Should be in a couple of days. So remember, like, share, and subscribe if you love the content. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya.